Welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the dramatic, ever-evolving world of the bold and the beautiful. Today is a thrilling day to dissect the latest explosive developments surrounding the Spencer family empire. Grab your favorite beverage and settle in, because we are about to jump right into the heart of a corporate warfare and family betrayal that is destined to shake Los Angeles to its very core. The landscape of Los Angeles is no stranger to seismic shifts in power, but the latest tremors emanating from Spencer Publications promise to rewrite the very foundation of the city's corporate hierarchy. At the center of this impending earthquake is the formidable Bill Spencer, a patriarch whose ruthless ambition has long been the defining characteristic of his reign. For decades, Bill has wielded his influence like a broadsword, cutting down enemies and manipulating allies with equal, terrifying fervor. However, his latest obsession with waging an all-out corporate war against Forrester Creations has blinded him to the growing, venomous resentment festering within his own bloodline. The catalyst for this unprecedented internal rebellion stems from the recent, humiliating termination of his youngest son, Will Spencer, from Forrester Creations. After a violent altercation with R.J. Forrester, Will was unceremoniously fired by Ridge Forrester. In this critical moment of vulnerability, Will looked to his powerful father for protection and vindication. Instead, he found a man too consumed by his own grand strategies to shield his flesh and blood, a failure that has ignited a devastating chain reaction of betrayal and vengeance. Wyatt Spencer's recent return to Los Angeles was ostensibly to serve as a top executive in Bill's hostile expansion and the aggressive elevation of the Logan fashion empire. Yet, beneath the surface of this familial reunion, Wyatt has been quietly observing the toxic mechanics of his father's empire. Wyatt is a man of sharp intellect and pragmatic vision, possessing a deep understanding of Bill's psychological warfare. Upon witnessing his father's blatant disregard for Will's emotional and professional destruction at the hands of the Forresters, a profound realization washed over Wyatt. He recognized with chilling clarity that Bill does not view his children as beloved heirs to be nurtured and protected, but rather as expendable pawns on a colossal chessboard. Wyatt saw how Bill was willing to sacrifice Will's dignity if it served the larger narrative of his war against Ridge and Steffy. This epiphany shattered any remaining illusions Wyatt held about his father's capacity for unconditional love, replacing it with a cold, calculated determination to end the cycle of manipulation once and for all. The emotional devastation experienced by Will Spencer cannot be overstated. For Will, the firing from Forrester Creations was not merely a loss of employment, it was a profound blow to his identity and his pride. He had been manipulated, provoked, and ultimately discarded by the Forrester elite, specifically by the arrogant machinations of R.J. Forrester. When Will turned to the Spencer patriarch, he expected the legendary dollar bill wrath to descend upon Forrester Creations in his defense. Instead, Bill's failure to adequately protect him or retaliate on his behalf left Will feeling utterly abandoned. This profound sense of isolation created a dangerous void within the young man, a dark, festering wound of resentment that was primed for exploitation. Will began to question his entire existence within the Spencer family dynamic, wondering if his worth was solely tied to his utility in his father's endless corporate crusades. The pain of rejection morphed into a simmering, volatile rage, setting the perfect stage for an unprecedented familial coup. Recognizing the volatile state of his younger brother's mind, Wyatt made a calculated and decisive move. He approached Will not as a superior executive, but as a sympathetic sibling who had also endured the emotional whiplash of being Bill Spencer's son. In a series of intense, clandestine conversations held in the shadows of the Spencer beach house, Wyatt began to dismantle the myth of their father. He carefully and methodically convinced Will that Bill's failure to protect him was not an oversight, but a symptom of a much larger, darker truth. Bill Spencer only cares about winning. Wyatt painted a vivid, horrifying picture of their father as a megalomaniac who would gladly step over his own children to achieve absolute power. He articulated the painful reality that as long as Bill remained at the helm, Wyatt, Will, and even Liam would never be anything more than instruments of his ruthless will. By validating Will's anger and channeling it toward a common enemy, Wyatt forged an unbreakable, dangerous alliance born of shared trauma and mutual ambition. The formation of this brotherly alliance marks a terrifying new chapter in the history of Spencer Publications. Wyatt and Will represent a lethal combination of skills and access that even the great Bill Spencer could not have anticipated. Wyatt brings to the table years of seasoned corporate experience, a brilliant strategic mind, and an intimate knowledge of the financial vulnerabilities hidden within the Spencer empire. Will, on the other hand, possesses the raw, unbridled energy of youth and, crucially, high-level insider access to the company's digital and physical security infrastructure. Together, they are not merely disgruntled sons throwing a tantrum, they are a highly coordinated, stealthy insurgency operating within the very walls of the fortress they intend to conquer. The brothers operate with a chilling synchronicity, their shared goal of dethroning their father overriding any lingering familial loyalty. They understand that to take down a titan like Bill, they cannot rely on conventional warfare. They must strike at the very heart of his legacy, utilizing his own dark history against him. To orchestrate a downfall of this magnitude, Wyatt and Will knew they needed leverage that transcended mere corporate mismanagement. They needed a weapon of mass destruction, a secret so damning that it would irrevocably destroy Bill's credibility and force his immediate removal from power. Their search led them deep into the darkest, most heavily guarded archives of Spencer Publications, delving into the infamous and tragic history of the Sky Building collapse. This catastrophic event, a dark stain on the Spencer legacy, had long been whispered about in the corridors of power, a testament to Bill's willingness to prioritize profit and ambition over human life. The brothers meticulously combed through decades-old files, searching for the definitive proof that Bill had deliberately ignored safety warnings and neglected the lives of innocent people to ensure the completion of his architectural monument. Resurrecting the ghosts of the Sky Building was a dangerous game, but Wyatt and Will were willing to risk everything to expose the true depths of their father's ruthlessness. The execution of this perilous espionage fell squarely on the shoulders of Will Spencer. Utilizing his intimate knowledge of the company's labyrinthine security protocols, Will embarked on a high-stakes mission to infiltrate the most restricted servers of Spencer Publications. The tension during these late-night incursions was palpable, the air thick with the threat of discovery. Will navigated the complex firewalls and encrypted databases with the precision of a seasoned hacker, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs with every bypassed security measure. He was not just stealing data, he was extracting the digital manifestation of his father's sins. Every classified document, every suppressed internal memo, and every buried engineering report regarding the Sky Building's structural integrity was meticulously downloaded and secured. Will's actions were driven by a potent cocktail of vengeance and a desperate desire to cleanse the Spencer name of the blood his father had spilled. He was no longer the helpless victim of Forrester machinations. He was the architect of his father's imminent destruction. While Will gathered the explosive ammunition, Wyatt assumed the role of the master tactician, orchestrating a brilliant and utterly ruthless hostile takeover of Spencer Publications shares. Operating entirely under the radar, Wyatt utilized a complex web of shell companies and proxy buyers to quietly accumulate a controlling interest in the empire. He leveraged his extensive network of industry contacts, subtly manipulating the market and exploiting the chaotic distractions caused by Bill's ongoing war with Forrester Creations. Wyatt approached disgruntled board members and silent partners, presenting them with the undeniable evidence of Bill's impending implosion and offering them a lucrative, stable future under a new, younger leadership. The sheer audacity and scale of Wyatt's financial maneuvering were breathtaking, a testament to how thoroughly he had absorbed his father's teachings, only to weaponize them against him. Wyatt was weaving an inescapable financial net, ensuring that when the trap finally sprang, Bill would have absolutely no avenue of escape. The psychological toll of orchestrating their father's demise weighed heavily on both brothers, creating a profound internal conflict that simmered beneath their cold, calculated exteriors. For Wyatt, the betrayal was a necessary evil, a painful amputation required to save the body of the Spencer family from the spreading gangrene of Bill's megalomania. He wrestled with the memories of the times Bill had supported him, juxtaposed against the overwhelming evidence of his father's toxic, destructive nature. For Will, the conflict was even more visceral. He was destroying the man he had spent his entire life trying to impress, the invincible titan he had once idolized. There were moments in the dead of night when the sheer magnitude of their treason threatened to overwhelm them, moments where the ghost of familial love whispered pleas for mercy. Yet, every time they wavered, the stark reality of Bill's actions, the manipulation, the neglect, the sheer, unadulterated cruelty, steeled their resolve. They convinced themselves that they were not destroying their family, they were saving it from the tyrant who had held it hostage for far too long. The physical exchange of the stolen data was a moment of profound, irreversible consequence. Deep within the dimly lit confines of the Spencer Beach house, accompanied only by the rhythmic, haunting crash of the ocean waves outside, Will handed Wyatt the encrypted drive containing the Sky Building files. The small, metallic object felt impossibly heavy, burdened with the weight of ruined lives and a shattered family trust. As their fingers brushed during the transfer, a silent, electric understanding passed between the brothers. There was no turning back. They were crossing the Rubicon, leaving behind the safety of their roles as obedient sons and stepping into the treacherous, unforgiving arena of absolute power. Wyatt gripped the drive tightly, his eyes locking onto Will's with a fierce, protective intensity. In that solitary moment, the alliance was sealed in digital blood, a silent vow to see the destruction of their father's reign through to its bitter, inevitable conclusion, regardless of the emotional wreckage it would leave in its wake. The culmination of their meticulous planning arrived on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, transforming the opulent expanse of the Spencer Publications CEO office into a claustrophobic arena of reckoning. Bill Spencer, entirely consumed by his aggressive strategies to dismantle Forrester Creations, was completely oblivious to the storm gathering within his own walls. When Wyatt and Will entered the office, their expressions were unreadable masks of hardened resolve, the heavy oak doors clicking shut behind them with a sound like a sealing tomb. The atmosphere instantly thickened, charged with an electric, suffocating tension. They did not come bearing reports or seeking guidance. They came as conquerors, armed with the undeniable proof of Bill's darkest sins and the financial instruments of his absolute ruin. As Wyatt laid the damning dossiers regarding the Sky Building collapse onto the pristine mahogany desk, followed by the legal documents confirming their majority shareholder status, the silence in the room became deafening. The trap had been sprung, and the predator was finally the prey. The reaction of Bill Spencer was a masterclass in shattered hubris. For a fleeting moment, the legendary dollar bill simply stared at the documents, his brilliant mind struggling to process the catastrophic reality unfolding before his eyes. The color drained from his face as the magnitude of the betrayal washed over him. He looked from Wyatt's steely, uncompromising gaze to Will's defiant, angry posture, searching for some sign of a cruel joke, some indication that this was merely a test of his authority. But there was no humor in his son's eyes, only the cold, hard reflection of his own ruthlessness staring back at him. The shock was absolute, a visceral, physical blow that seemed to age the patriarch 10 years in a matter of seconds. The man who had spent his life anticipating every attack from his enemies was utterly blindsided by the devastating strike from his own flesh and blood. He was paralyzed not just by the loss of his empire, but by the profound, inescapable realization that he had engineered his own destruction by teaching his sons how to be monsters. Breaking the heavy, suffocating silence, Wyatt delivered the final, fatal blow to his father's reign. His voice was devoid of malice, yet it possessed a chilling, absolute finality that cut deeper than any scream. "You are too old, and you are too ruthless to lead us anymore," Wyatt declared, his words echoing off the glass walls of the office like the tolling of a funeral bell. He articulated the harsh truth that Bill's era of unchecked aggression, of treating human lives as collateral damage in the pursuit of power, had come to a definitive end. Wyatt explained that the world had moved on, that the future of Spencer Publications required a leadership that built empires without leaving a trail of broken bodies and shattered families in its wake. He stripped Bill of his justifications, laying bare the toxic legacy of the Sky Building and the emotional wreckage of his parenting. It was not merely a corporate takeover, it was a profound, generational exorcism, a violent passing of the torch dictated by the very ruthlessness Bill had instilled in them. As the reality of his dethronement settles over the Los Angeles skyline, the implications of Wyatt and Will's coup are staggering, promising to reshape the entire landscape of the fashion and publishing industries. With Bill Spencer forcibly removed from power, the ongoing corporate war against Forrester Creations is instantly thrown into chaos. Will the younger generation of Spencers continue the vendetta, or will they seek a pragmatic, profitable peace? Furthermore, the revelation of the Sky Building cover-up threatens to unleash a torrent of legal and public relations nightmares that Wyatt and Will must now navigate. They have inherited an empire, but they have also inherited a minefield of their father's making. The brothers stand at the precipice of a terrifying new reality, holding the reins of unimaginable power. They have successfully slain the dragon, but the true test of their alliance will be whether they can govern the kingdom without becoming the very monster they sacrificed everything to destroy. The Spencer legacy has been irrevocably fractured, and the pieces are now in the hands of the sons who dared to strike down the king. The fall of Bill Spencer at the hands of Wyatt and Will marks a watershed moment in the annals of Los Angeles high society. It is a classic tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, a narrative of a powerful king undone by the very heirs he trained to be ruthless. As the sun sets on the era of Dollar Bill, a new dawn breaks over Spencer Publications, one guided by the cold pragmatism of Wyatt and the vengeful fire of Will. They have successfully claimed their birthright, not through patience and inheritance, but through a brutal, calculated conquest that proves they are, undeniably, their father's sons. The fashion world, the publishing industry, and the Forrester family watch with bated breath, realizing that the new generation of Spencers may be even more formidable and far more dangerous than the patriarch they just destroyed. The throne has been